Okay, so let's unpack this. We have two incredibly influential stacks of sources here,
Mm.
and they're essentially creating a dual deep dive into, well, completely transforming your relationship with money. This isn't just about budgeting. It's really about reshaping your entire worldview.
That's right. We're looking at two powerful, often complementary, but structurally very different paths. On one side, you've got this disciplined, very action-oriented financial makeover from Dave Ramsey. It's all about crushing debt and building security with a ton of intensity.
And on the other, there's the philosophical foundation of the whole financial independence movement. I mean, the one famously laid out by Vicky Robin and Joe Dominguez in Your Money or Your Life. Their approach is totally different. It asks us to redefine money as, quote, life energy.
Right. And crucially, to figure out your personal threshold of enough.
What is enough?
Yeah. So our mission today is to synthesize all this. We want to pull out the most powerful, the most actionable ideas from both. So whether you're someone who needs that intense, immediate action or you're looking for that deeper philosophical awareness, these sources give you the steps. They give you the insights to move from feeling reactive with your money to making really conscious choices.
And before we get anywhere near the math, the spreadsheets, the first step for both is it's purely emotional.
Yeah.
You have to face the truth. Both frameworks just insist you have to confront your financial reality, honestly. No flinching.
And that confrontation is so essential because denial is, it's the most expensive thing you own, right? The Ramsey material really drives this home with something called the 10 situations test. It basically just asks you how you feel about things you deal with all the time, paying bills, retirement, that sort of thing.
And if your answer is scared or a little worried, the diagnosis is intentionally blunt. It's that you are not in control. And that lack of control carries this huge psychological weight. You're admitting you live with this constant anxiety that things could just spin out at any moment.
Which leads directly to the core takeaway: responsibility.
Sure.
Ramsey is so firm on this, and he gives two really strong reasons why you have to take ownership. First, you will never, ever change until you own the problem. If you're blaming luck or the economy or your bank, you're always waiting for someone else to save you.
Right, you're waiting for a rescue that's not coming.
Exactly.
And the second point is just as powerful. The way you allowed others to impact your finances, whether it was a bad business partner or, a bank that gave you easy credit, that gives you the blueprint for what you have to undo. The patterns you fell into are the exact ones you now have to break.
It's a complete attitude shift from being a victim to radical self-ownership, and that's where that motto comes in.
I am willing to live now like no one else.
So I can live later like no one else. It's a call for that intense, temporary sacrifice to get permanent freedom.
And that idea of alignment, of confrontation, that's exactly what the Your Money or Your Life philosophy calls financial integrity. It's this idea that all parts of your financial life, earning, spending, saving, they should all line up with your deepest values.
But you can't get that alignment, that integrity, until you know exactly where your money is going and why. And that's the perfect bridge, I think, from that emotional confrontation to the cold, hard numbers.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, because we're talking about a fundamental shift in how you think. The most profound idea in the YMOYL source is defining money not as currency, not as numbers on a screen, but as life energy. It's the literal measure of the time, the hours of your life that you trade for it.
The premise is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Every single minute you spend earning money is a minute of your life you can never get back. So to really understand the cost of something you buy, you have to figure out your real hourly wage. And this is way more complicated than just, dividing your monthly pay by 160 hours.
Exactly. You have to factor in all the hidden time and money costs that only exist because you have that job. Let's run a quick example. Say someone earns $30 an hour, 40 hours a week. Seems simple.
Okay, but let's add the time costs. 30 minutes every morning, getting ready for work, showering, clothes, making lunch. That's 2.5 hours a week right there. Then the commute. 30 minutes each way. It's another 5 hours a week. So we've already added 7.5 hours of unpaid time that's dedicated completely to the job.
And then you have the money costs. Special clothes for the office, maybe $50 a week on lunch or coffee because you're rushing, maybe $100 a month for parking. And we haven't even touched on the daily decompression.
Ugh, decompression.
Yeah, the time and money you spend just unwinding from a stressful day. This could be, 30 minutes a night just scrolling on your phone? Or a $5 craft beer just to take the edge off. Let's call that another 3 hours a week and maybe $30 in expenses.
So if you add all that up, our person might be getting paid for 40 hours, but they're dedicating 50 hours of their actual life energy to that job every week. And when you subtract the, say, $200 a month in job-related costs, their $30 an hour wage suddenly shrinks a lot.
Right. So when you divide their actual take-home pay by the true 50 hours they're spending, their real hourly wage might drop from $30 down to, I don't know, maybe $22.50.
Yeah.
Or even less. And that's the connection. Every dollar you spend represents minutes of your one finite life.
And that is just mind-blowing. Once you have that number, you're forced to ask yourself, is this $5 latte really worth 13 minutes of my life energy? Suddenly, it's not about the money. It's about the minutes and hours being stolen from your freedom. It completely shifts the conversation away from just, scarcity and budgeting. It becomes about maximizing your life.
Okay, so let's anchor this in today's reality and talk about building that foundation of security, which, for most people, means getting out from under the chains of debt. Our sources highlight a pretty shocking number. The average credit card debt for households that carry a balance is around $16,048.
And that debt, it isn't just a number on a statement, it's a shackle. It's what forces millions of people into that 9-to-5 routine, often in jobs they really dislike. Consumer debt was already past $3.7 trillion by late 2017, so both approaches agree on the prescription. You have to eliminate debt aggressively, because debt ensures you have to keep selling your life energy whether you want to or not.
And Ramsey's plan is just laser focus on this. He advocates attacking consumer debt credit cards, car loans, with gazelle-like intensity.
Right, but that raises an interesting question. Is that kind of intensity sustainable for everyone? Ramsey's argument is that it has to be intense, but temporarily, because debt is working exponentially against you. You have to break that cycle immediately. He pushes for getting rid of all consumer debt first, before you even think about the mortgage.
Absolutely. And the philosophical link here is that intent action now prevents you from spending countless future hours of your life energy just paying for past decisions. So once the consumer debt is gone, the next critical step is the emergency fund.
Yes. And this fund is not an investment. It's for peace of mind. Ramsey recommends 3 to 6 months of living expenses. For a fully funded one, you're usually looking at a minimum of about $10,000.
And the rule for this money is non-negotiable. It has to be liquid. That means money market funds, maybe a CD that doesn't penalize you for taking it out early. You are not chasing a return on this money. You are chasing immediate access and security. Putting it in stocks defeats the whole purpose.
And there's a fantastic marital tip in the sources here. If you're building this fund with a spouse, the amount you save should be whatever the spouse who needs more security feels comfortable with. The data suggests women are often more security-focused, men more risk-tolerant. So if your partner needs $15,000 to sleep well at night, that's the number. The peace of mind you gain is worth so much more than any tiny bit of interest you might earn elsewhere.
That's a great point. And that transition from security to satisfaction is so important. If the emergency fund is your safety net, that brings up a bigger question. When does spending stop making you happy? We all hit that point where the next purchase just adds zero real value to our lives.
That concept is illustrated so well by the fulfillment curve in the YMYL material. At the bottom of the curve, more money means more fulfillment because you're meeting basic needs. Safety, food, shelter.
Then as you move up the curve, you add comforts, maybe a few luxuries. But the curve hits a very clear peak. They call it enough. And that's the sweet spot. You have everything you need, the comforts you value, but nothing extra weighing you down.
Because past that peak, fulfillment actually starts to go down, even if your spending keeps going up. All that excess stuff becomes clutter. And clutter isn't just physical mess, it's anything. Possessions, memberships, even time commitments that doesn't serve your purpose but still costs you space, time, or money. It just drains your life energy.
So how do you actually figure out where your personal enough is? You go through your monthly spending, categorized by your real patterns, not some generic budget template, and you ask 3 transformative questions for each expense.
Question 1. Did I get fulfillment, satisfaction, and value in proportion to the life energy I spent? Question 2. Is this spending aligned with my values and my life's purpose? And the third one, which is the most powerful, I think, how would this spending change if I didn't have to work for money?
Those questions just hold a mirror right up to your unconscious habits. There's a perfect example of a computer programmer, Elaine H. She realized she was spending a ton on designer clothes and gadgets, purely because of peer pressure and boredom at her job. Once she asked those questions, the cuts were massive and honestly pretty easy for her.
Right. Or another case study, Jim, who realized his desire for a brand new truck was just pure want. It wasn't a need. He cut up his credit cards, got rid of cable TV, and realized his problem wasn't income. It was a consumption problem driven by habit.
The fulfillment curve really teaches you that your time is so much more valuable than any object you can buy with it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And once you have that security, you've killed the consumer debt, you've aligned your spending with your values, then you can start playing the long game.
Right. For the long game, following the DR plan, once that emergency fund is full and you're consumer debt-free, the next step is investing aggressively. Specifically, 15% of your before-tax gross income goes straight into retirement funds.
And that 15% rule is so vital, especially when you look at the sobering retirement stats from the sources. 62% of seniors have less than $1,000 in savings. 1,000. And, get this, 40% of low-income people think winning the lottery is the most realistic way to get to $500,000 for retirement. That just shows you the sheer lack of financial literacy out there.
It's a crisis. Okay, so let's tackle the biggest debt for most people. The house. Ramsey goes after several common myths that keep people chained to a 30-year mortgage.
The first one is the tax deduction argument. You hear it all the time, oh, I'll keep my mortgage for the write-off. The math is so clear on this. Sending $10,000 in interest to a bank so you can avoid sending $3,000 in tax to the IRS. It's just illogical. You're still losing $7,000.
A bad deal every time. What's myth two?
Borrowing against your house to invest, refinancing to take cash out, hoping to get a higher return in the market. This just adds a huge amount of risk. If the market tanks or you have a medical emergency, the person with the paid-off house is in a much, much stronger position. They're bulletproof. The person who leveraged their home is not.
And the third myth? Taking a 30-year mortgage, but intending to pay it off like a 15-year. It sounds flexible, but the vast majority of people just never follow through. Life happens.
Exactly. If your goal is a 15-year payoff, get a 15-year fixed-rate loan.
Yeah.
And always, always prefer a fixed-rate mortgage over something like an ARM where the interest can just shoot up.
Finally, let's touch on college savings. It's something that feels so overwhelming to so many people. The sources recommend tax advantage tools.
Yeah. The main ones are the Education Savings Account, the ESA. It's a great starting point. Tax-free growth. Ideal if your child is young and your income is below a certain threshold. For bigger savings goals, or if you have a higher income, you would pivot to the 529 plan. It also lets the money grow tax-free as long as you use it for qualified education expenses.
So, what does this all mean? We've looked at two really powerful and I think complementary paths to financial health. One is that disciplined, goal-oriented path of intense action, the Ramsey baby steps. The other is the awareness path, focused on self-inventory, on calculating your life energy, aligning your spending with your purpose, the YMOYL philosophy.
But the common thread, the synthesis, is this. Both of them demand that you stop living on autopilot. Both frameworks just powerfully show that it's your internal decisions, your beliefs, not external forces, that really determine your financial destiny.
In the end, financial independence isn't about being rich. It's about having security and the freedom to make choices. It's about empowerment. The sources mention this guy, Larry D., a corporate employee. Once he started implementing these ideas and he was on the path to FI, his whole mindset changed. He said he'd come home from work just saying, I'm bulletproof, I'm bulletproof.
And that's the feeling. That bulletproof feeling comes from knowing your financial integrity is solid. It's knowing that you don't need that specific job to survive tomorrow. And that is a priceless kind of leverage to have in your life.
So here's a final thought. If achieving financial integrity means your wealth just makes you more of what you already are, more generous if you're a generous person, or, it amplifies your negative traits, what actions should you start taking today to make sure the person you're becoming is the person you actually want to be when you finally reach enough? Think about where your integrity is right now, because wealth is only going to magnify it.